Fiasco in Foxborough. Hey everybody, Walty Wanderers, buckle up, strap in. We got a hard-hitting, pull no punches, no sugarcoating it, no rainbows or sunshine. I'm just going to give it to you and give it to you straight. We got a good one to unpackage today. Welcome to the show. I hope everybody's doing great. So let's jump back on the Moto merry-go-round. Around and around we go as we examine the good, the bad, and maybe a little bit of the ugly.
No, Walty, not the ugly. Only examine rainbows and sunshine.
No. Somebody's got to read between the lines and look between the ruts. And speaking of ruts, we had one of the most ruttiest tracks of the year in Foxborough. Now, they say, and it's just a known fact, right? Mud is the great equalizer. This was a great opportunity for a ton of privateers that have never made mains to make it in, making podiums. I mean, this was awesome in that respect. The only thing I don't like is, I want to see really action-packed racing. These guys' talents on full display. Now, I'm not opposed to a mudder a year. I think it's great for the sport. I believe it provides a lot of entertainment. I believe it provides a lot of shakeup within the series, which it clearly did. But again, if you can't race the track, it's a survival mode out there. And these guys don't practice in these conditions, although they should, and I know a lot of them probably have, but for the most part, they show up these test tracks, and they're pretty much perfect tracks. So, a lot of the things that have changed since back in the day is now there's so much money behind these big factory teams as they're getting the track maps and then building replica tracks and knowing the track before they even show up. Another unfair advantage for these factory guys who are already getting top-tier equipment, training, nutritionists, psychologists, the doctor, whatever the case may be. And these guys that are traveling in the back of their, box vans, in sprinter vans and pickup trucks and trailers, they're lucky if they can even get their race bike through the year. They're clapped out. So in one respect, this was awesome for those riders. You gotta just appreciate the fact that these riders, just stoked. These are some of the only podiums and finishes and payouts these guys are ever going to see. So in that respect, it was pretty good. Now, for me personally, it looks like next weekend, which is in fact a showdown, is in Philly, and it's going to be potentially another mudder. Now, did you guys notice Foxborough was pretty empty? I know me myself, if I was just a regular fan with a regular general admission seat,
these seats suck, bro.
I'm not sure how pumped I would have been to sit through an evening of freezing cold and wet, and it clearly showed. Foxborough was probably maybe at half capacity. And it's just the industry. They're selling to the highest bidder where they will bring these races. But the weather, unfortunately, is crushing. Now, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of tickets sold and people just passed. They're like, I'm just going to stay home and watch it, from TV. And the TV coverage now is so good. I almost prefer watching a lot of this stuff from home. But there's nothing like being at the races for sure. Having your buddies yelling, screaming, it's just super fun. Now, let's go ahead and start with the feel-good story of the day, which was clearly AP. We had we're breaking a lot of records and some good records, right? So we're going to examine a little bit of the good before we get to the bad and the ugly. And another winner, and a feel-good winner, right? AP.
Yeehaw, I'm the cowboy, and I want to thank my smoking hot wife.
The cowboy. Now, the only thing, AP, listen, bro, if you're listening, dude, this is what we need from you because you are the Ricky Bobby of our sport. And again, KTM has to be stoked, and you have to be stoked because it's clear is day that Chase Sexton is gone. And Chase Sexton is probably going to have a hard time if he has more races like the ones he had tonight to not even, pull out of the series, the outdoors early, kind of the way we saw Cooper Webb tap out at the end. I just don't think Chase Sexton's having any fun. Now, not to say I personally believe no matter what bike Chase is on, you can't change the stripes of a zebra. I believe he's, no matter if he goes to Cowie, wherever he's going to continue to potentially have more of the same. Now, I had Chase as my potential winner because he's so strong, right? And he easily could have won this race. But AP in my fantasy picks was the one I actually picked for the win because I knew that he is a mud specialist. And he has that in his DNA with his dad being a GNCC champ, I believe, and then him riding a lot of that type of racing himself. So clearly a lot of you guys, I'm sure, leave it in the comments below if you had AP. I'm sure many of you guys did. Now, with that being said, AP, I love, like he said, like, it's a page out of Ricky Bobby's book where he's like, I want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank my smoking hot wife. Good job. But what you really need to do, I mean, what the crowd loves, and I didn't hear it tonight, and I understand when you're on the podium and you got cameras on you, and there's Will, and she's kind of hot too, and you're like, whatever. He needs to be like, woohoo! What full set, whatever. He needs to give us the woohoo, cowboy baby. And but other than that, it was great to see him puddle jump and all that. And so congrats to AP, congrats to KTM because you really needed that. Now, on the flip side, in the 250s, another new winner with Chance Hymas. And again, Mud, the great equalizer. Not a mudder. I don't think either of those winners are winning tonight. Maybe AP, but the reality is this. Hymas pulls off a win, huge for him. Hey, listen, man, you cannot put an asterisk really next to this. Everybody had to race that same track. It was treacherous, but Vial ends up in last place, and now the East Coast lights are tight with Hammaker, if it was to end today, being your champion because him and Vial are now tied in points. And Hampshire's right there too. This thing's gonna get good. I'm really excited to see the 250 class play out. But the reality is also this. I mean, the only reason we've had so many winners in the 450 class is what? I'm waiting for it. Let me hear you. You guessed it. The Wonder Boy's not in it. Eli's not in it. If the Eli and the Wonder Boy are still in this 450 class, the whole podium changes. And there's a good chance the Wonder Boy, now not to say he would have won in this mud track, although he could, because clearly, if you're a taller rider and you can get your legs out and paddle around, that's going to help you. And I believe the Wonder Boy potentially could have been a good mud rider. But again, these guys are practicing on pristine tracks. They're not used to riding in the mud. But regardless, this has opened up a door with a lot of the Anderson, Tomac, Wonder Boy, his brother, just to name a few. That is a lot of riders that typically would occupy the podium. So we've seen it. It's great for a lot of the riders because I remember back in the day when I was in the industry, by the time I used to sponsor tons of privateers with MotoStar, and by the end of the year, when people started getting hurt, these guys started making night shows and eventually mains. And that's what we're seeing now. So again, we've had, Colin Park gets a second place, stoked. But Shane McElrath, I really wanted to cheer for Shane McElrath because he's an ex-factory rider and everybody loves a comeback story. And he's been relegated to support team equipment, and Martin Davalos, the heat race hero back in the day, as the manager of that team, he's done a phenomenal job. And it was just great to see McElrath win his heat race and then back it up with the podium. And the dude's quietly been like their top rider because even though he might not have other finishes, he's pulling starts, he's running up front a lot. Yeah, he tends to get dispatched at some point, but he's clearly making a bunch of progress. Now, with that being said, a couple things you got to understand. Moving forward, we're open air stadiums, and I would prefer to see this championship come down to racecraft, not necessarily track conditions. And it looks like we're potentially up against another mudder. We might have several more mudders. Like, this could be a full shakeup. Now, a lot of you guys are probably like, I love it. I love it. For me, it's not that I don't mind it, but I really want to see these gnarly bar-to-bar battles and these guys displaying having their talents on full display. And we're just not getting that out of the mud races. And I think the industry, you'd be better off getting these things into covered stadiums. A few open air, sure, But I mean, I think the covered stadiums are going to do the best. They're just going to cater to a better racetrack. We're going to, as fans, get better races. I think their fan attendance is going to be better. Unfortunately, Foxborough bid to have that race there, and they didn't fill up the seats. It was probably a bust for them, but not the industry. They get paid either way. Now, with that being said, there's a couple things, and maybe this week, if we get a chance, we'll put this a little further under the microscope. Grandpa Earl is now the fill-in rider at HRC. Now, there's other riders that are clearly faster, capable of putting in better finishes. You see, because Dean Wilson, even when he was still out there racing this series, the Supercross series, he was a lapper. He was not a threat for a podium, top 10, barely. And so why would you pick Grandpa Earl? Well, that's exactly that. I just told you why. Because he's Grandpa Earl. See, Honda knows that he is a PR favorite. They opted for, and this is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of not great in my opinion, because you're not going for the fill-in rider that has the opportunity to give the best results. They went with the rider that has the best opportunity to give you fanfare. And Dean Wilson is like one of the most likable guys. I'm actually glad it went to him. I understand it, but I don't think they need to sugarcoat it. They need to tell us, like, hey, we picked Dean Wilson because he's a popular guy. His popularity is more important than his finishes. And that's in fact why we see Grandpa Earl. And here's the thing. I really want to see Dean Wilson do some good stuff on that bike. I think that would be great. It could, in fact, resurrect his career a little further. It's a little roll of the dice for him because at this point, he was already basically retired, making up his own schedule. So even if he doesn't have any good finishes on that bike, I don't think it hurts him at all in going back to the program that he was running. But if he was, in fact, to have some good finishes, there's a good chance his agent's going to be able to negotiate potentially a new contract that would put him back to full-time racing. And final thoughts, I come to you as a friend, as a content creator, as a moto guy that wants to see you not only win on the track, off the track. Understand the waters you're swimming in now. They're shark infested. Foxborough, welcome to the swimming pool. And that thing was literally a swimming pool. It delivered one of the most different races that we've had all year. Surprise people in the mains, in the heats, in the lap times. Everything got shaken up tonight. For us, that's good moving forward. But personally, one mud race, I'm cool with it. Two, okay, fine. But we do not want to see too many of these things. We need to see who's actually the best on an actual raceable track be our winner. In the meantime, Walty will be here to blow the lid off it every step of the way. Because it's not only what we need, it's in fact what we deserve. If you appreciate the content, I want to humbly ask you to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Social media link in the description of this video if you'd like to follow me there, along with links to channels I've appeared on I think you might enjoy. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love the next video. And there's an easy subscribe icon for your convenience. As always, thank you for your time. Don't go over the bars. God bless, and I'll see you on the next video.